Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up on the pod today, more questions about what the future of the USL Premier, or whatever it's going to be called, have. We'll dig into the nuts and bolts of potential promotion relegation and what the president of USL is saying about it. We also look ahead to the Champions League round of 16, some intriguing matchups, and interesting how the bracket has laid out. We'll get into that here. But let us remind you that we are fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated with locations in San Marco and Jack's Beach. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great times. Okay, let's get into this. We touched on it last week. It was basically breaking news as we recorded last week.
Do we know if we hit the pod wire first?
I don't know.
I'm
for
saying
sure,
yes.
but
yes.
I have not seen any evidence to the contrary.
Right, exactly. No one's disputing our claim.
Right.
So.
And in this day and age, I guess you can just say whatever truth you want, and people will go along
we're
with it.
post-truth,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's talk about the USL and the First Division plans. And I want to really get into the promotion relegation side of this because we don't know yet when, if, and how it will be implemented, but it seems that it's going to be at some point. There are some obstacles to overcome. We'll talk about those here in just a minute. But I want to play some sound from Paul McDonough, the USL president, who was on CBS Golazo on Thursday morning, I believe. And
24-hour show, it's hard to say.
Yeah. First appeared on Thursday morning, talking about what the launch of the USL's First Division League, scheduled for 2027 or 2028, would mean and how promotion relegation would play into it. Here's that sound.
Well, I think it's a different time. I don't know what happened with the NASL, right? I wasn't that familiar with it. But I think it's a different time now. I think the leadership of U.S. soccer is very pro-growth. I think for us, we have established championship teams that have more ambition to compete at a higher level. And we can pull the whole ecosystem of Division I, Division II, and Division III, and hopefully bring promotion relegation to that system.
Okay, promotion relegation. We've opened Pandora's box. The final frontier for soccer in the United States. This is obviously a big deal. How do you implement it? How long does it take? I mean, really talk to us a little bit more about promotion relegation.
Yeah, it's a hard concept to implement, right? We thought it was, one of those things that we could get going. And as we went through the process with the championship in League One and talking about splitting the championship in two, that was very difficult for us. And, going promotion from Division II to Division II was hard. So that led us to pushing for Division I. At the same time, we're talking about promotion relegation. Our most ambitious owners are talking about higher standards, bigger stadiums, all those things. So, it just naturally led us here. And as we go through, there's still a lot of work to do, right? Promotion relegation, in the traditional sense, the way it is in Europe is one way, but playoffs are very important. So how do we incorporate promotion relegation plus playoffs, right? Where the regular season has a lot of jeopardy, but then you still have the playoffs for the fans, that there's a champion at the end. So we're going to look at two kind of separate competitions. So we're just going through all of that now.
Paul, when I see this and I hear it, I get excited, right? Because this is as close as it gets to European world football. So because it feels like the supporters have always been about this. Hey, let's do it, we're ready. But how did you get buy-in from the owners? Because it feels like the financial implications are maybe something that many owners kind of shied away from.
Yeah, it's been a process, right, of going through the pros and cons of promotion relegation. I think with us announcing the intention of going Division I, that's kind of almost led everyone into a better mindset. Now we're still talking to all the owners. We just got done with 2 days of Board of Governor meetings with Championship and League One, and the response was pretty good. We still have some work to do to get over that hurdle. But I think the first thing for us, right, we got to get the Division I going, and then we'll implement promotion and relegation.
All right. I think some very upfront comments there from Paul McDonough. Basically saying, hey, it's going to happen. We got to figure out how to do it and and win.
American soccer heads are not used to that level of transparency.
No, that is true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. So, guys, let's talk about how it might wind up. And truly, when you talk about 3 leagues, 3 tiers, USL Premier, I'll call it for lack of a better term. That's a placeholder. It might wind up being the thing. USL Championship, USL League One. Only one league will have promotion and relegation. That'll be the championship. You can be promoted up. You could be relegated down. You can only get relegated from the top tier, and you can only get promoted up from the bottom tier because you're not going to get relegated down from League One. You follow me on this one, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So,
Cole, can you explain that to me like I'm a 4th grader?
you can only go up from the bottom. You can only go down from the top.
Okay.
But obviously we have this and as a possibility. Paul McDonough's comments about needing to have the playoffs involved, I think, is a really interesting thing. And I think the USL has the opportunity to do something that is similar to what happens in much of the rest of the world, but also includes the best of American sports, which is a postseason playoff tournament. So I'm going to throw out some ideas here, and you guys tell me the good and the bad, you like, you don't like, from this. So the first one is just to simply do it almost exactly the same way that it happens in, say, England. With the Premier League, bottom 3 go down, or bottom X number, however that number is. In the championship, there is some automatic promotion and some playoff promotion, and similarly in League One. Do you like that system?
I prefer league play, right? So the postseason, all that. If we're trying to mirror the best of what happens everywhere in the world, I think to keep it pure, it's your league schedule.
Okay, so
that's me.
You like that one, yeah. Mauricio? How about you? How just playing that straight, league promoted up, demoted down?
I like it, but I think that there's something unique to the playoff situation, and I think other countries have actually adapted some format of playoffs, whether they're the championship moving up into number 3 to number 6, play a bit of like a playoff round in order to see who's the 3rd team in England that goes up. So I do like some format of the playoff because it does bring some excitement to it. The straight up table, the league play in the table is good, and I don't think anyone could argue that. But I think there's a hybrid here that we can do in America that we can align with global soccer without losing a little bit of like our playoff identity. I mean, this is my take on it. I'd be happy if we just made it uniform, but I do think that there's a lot more to it, being the size of the country as well.
Yeah, and so I should have mentioned that lower league 3 through 6 tournament. I also like that. I think what I would really not like is if my team played excellent throughout the year, they're number 1 or 2, they have a COVID or snake bite, emergency and lose players or something happens, and then they get knocked out in the first round of playoffs, but they had an amazing season. I would not like them to be without that.
Yeah, so
lift.
I agree with you in theory on that, and I think there's a way, a hybridized version of this, and how to get it in, and that is I'm going to use, we don't know how many teams might be promoted or relegated, but let's use 3 as the number of teams that would get promoted from the championship to USL Premier. I think there's a way to utilize both of these things. First and foremost, if you have the best record in the league, if you're the league champions, automatic promotion.
You're number 1.
You're going up. Yeah. If you have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, let's say, one of those top teams, and you go into the playoffs, whoever lasts longest that isn't the top seed also gets in, among those playoff teams. And then the 3rd should be the highest remaining team that did not qualify, or that did not go as deep, or if 2 teams go, as deep, get knocked out, whatever that looks like. Well, I guess you wouldn't have that. You couldn't have 2 teams go the same distance. Everybody's going to get knocked out in a different way, or somebody else goes on. So that way you have, because one of the things that makes, say, the Premier League have games of importance is not just promotion or trying to, you have the teams that are in the relegation zone fighting to stay up. Those matter at the end of the year. But also the teams that are trying to get into Europe or the Champions League spots. Those matter as well. So we don't have the Champions League right now as an option for for the USL Premier that could come along with CONCACAF competitions, but right now we don't know that. So to have these different ways for teams to get in, where if you have an outstanding year, you can still it's sort of like college basketball in this regard. If you win the conference tournament, you're going in. So I equate that to the automatic bid being the regular season champion. Then the others have the opportunity to win their way in as a result of that. That's promotion. So I want to get Tony, both you and Mauricio's take on that theory, that approach.
Okay, I'll go first. So don't love it. I still think so. I'm going to digress a smidge and then we'll hand it over to Mauricio. But if you think about like Jacksonville, we know that there's, from data, we've got the data, that there's 300, 400,000 soccer fans in our drive area, right? When we hosted 12 years ago, when we hosted Nigeria, we put 50,000 in the stadium, right? But it was a record at that point in the U.S. We know that we have the people. I think part of the problem with us growing the game, not just in Jacksonville, but in America, is that we don't make it simple enough, and we have disparate leagues, and the pyramid's kind of hard to figure out, and people are telling you that their third division team is better than what you're going to do, and it's just like, it's confusing. And I think if we make it as close to the world game, the less confusing it will be, and the better it will be to grow the game.
So would you then just throw out any postseason playoffs other than those spots for?
I don't hate that third team being a tournament between 3 and 6. That's fun in the championship. They go to Wembley, they do it. I think everybody kind of understands that model, and I'm cool with that.
Okay, Mauricio, how do you feel about this hybrid model that I proposed?
Yeah, I think one of the comments that Tony made there is true. If we create a very complicated or something that needs to be newly introduced as a kind of like we're trying to get uniform with the world, and then we create something that is like really out of the box in a way that needs to be learned, like the MLS trading system. You need a master's degree to understand how money allocation goes through. And even some of the top executives in MLS don't understand it. They need like lawyers to help them figure it out. And it's a very closed system. I think if we do something on the promotion relegation that is hard to figure out, or people are like, what are they doing? You may not get as much buy-in. So I agree with Tony to a certain extent that it needs to be some kind of simplicity, and simplicity being that it's been done. This is the one caveat that we're going to kind of throw against it. Almost like, hey, this is how it's done at this league. We're doing something similar. Obviously there's some adaptations to our environment. I would look at the 1 and 2 getting an auto promotion and then going to a playoff environment like in England, but maybe you expand the playoff to 8 teams, depending how many people you have in there. But I would also do a playoff at the bottom. So if you're in the league, so if you're in the new Division 1 system, and it's hard to, I think Argentina does something right now that it's an average of 2 to 3 years, where if you have a bad year, like Tony was mentioning, like you don't just automatically get relegated. You go into a playoff. Bundesliga does something similar, where the last 2 automatically get relegated, but then the third to last, so the number 18th, if out of 20 teams, they go into a playoff with the number 3 of Bundesliga 2. So there are metrics out there, and then there's examples out there that you can utilize. But I think having a reference of what we're doing and keeping it somewhat simple is going to be key into this new introduction, in my opinion.
I will say I believe that was Argentina's previous approach, and they eliminated relegation here this past October from their system.
Right.
So there is that. I just think that if you're in the United States, you have to have the playoffs. I think
I agree with you.
Yeah.
because if you think about this in this situation, Tony, if you finish first or second.
I can only see you with the Uncle Sam hat on right now.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, listen, we are in America. We can call it soccer.
You're
We
right.
can call it a game.
Can't argue
Like,
that. Right.
All these
Yeah.
things are acceptable
True. Okay.
here in this country. If you finish first or second, and then you don't play for a championship, or you don't play, you're not playing in a postseason tournament as a result of that. Your fans have now been robbed of having those moments. That we, as American sports fans, I don't care if soccer is your first sport or not. Living in America, the expectation is that there are playoffs. There's playoffs at every level of college, at every sport in college, at every minor league sports, major league sports, you name it. Everywhere there's playoffs. And then now to say, well, we don't need to have a playoffs for the top teams, that rubs me the wrong way. And I think that the fans will be robbed of that. And that's why, again, I think you can have a robust postseason. Let's say the championship has 20 teams in it, while the premiership has, 16 at some point, 18, whatever it looks like. You can have, of those 20 teams, you could have 8 of them or 10 of them make the postseason if you wanted, and the top 2 teams maybe get a bye. So there's a benefit to finishing in the top 2. And even if you say, again, win the league, you have automatically earned it. Does that mean that there's nothing to play for to win that championship? I mean, there's more. There's still something to play for. Raising that cup as a champion still will matter.
Can I complicate it slightly more?
Yes, please do. I love to
Yes,
complicate it.
Thank you.
Well, you got divisions here that you don't have in any other country. So now unless they completely get rid of divisions, which that's not going to be very popular based on the size and the travel requirements. But right now in the championship, you have 28 teams.
Yeah.
24 teams, sorry, in 2 divisions of 12, and that's to break up the country in half in some capacity. What do you do if you maintain divisions? Is it the top of each division? But we've seen sometimes the East division is stronger than the West from a running point standpoint. So the number 1 and 2 in one division may actually be the number 4 and 5 in a different division. We've seen that happen.
Yep. And I agree with you. There's no perfect way to solve for that. Again, there are 12 teams in the Scottish Premiership. All right, but you can get on a bus and go.
Yeah.
From the 2 farthest flung teams in Scotland. It's a train ride at worst in England. If you're going from
there's a couple long.
If you go Newcastle to
Bournemouth or
Brighton or something, you might. It's an hour flight.
It's a haul.
Yeah. It is one of those where you get up in the air and then you go down. It's
it's like
it's
going
the
to
Jacksonville
New
to
York.
Atlanta hump there. So. It's different, and there is a real that is definitely part of this, Mauricio. I think you're absolutely right that deciding about travel and conferences. But if you're starting with a 12 or 14 team league, I don't think you're going to have that initially with USL Premier or whatever it winds up being called.
Cool. So one
yeah,
thing.
not at the top league, but when you're talking about a promotion from the bottom leagues, League One right now, because of the amount of teams they have, they don't have divisions, but I think they're going to moving towards that because there's so many teams coming into League One.
Yeah.
But go back to Paul McDonough's comment. It's they're committing to getting it done. They're going to sit. There's not going to be a one sit down overnight. They're going to have to come up with different models. I would imagine they're going to consult all over the world. They're going to go to the Argentina League, the Mexican League, the Dutch League, and there's a lot of leagues that have gotten rid of promotion relegation and they brought it back in. They're going to consult with the championship and see if their playoff system works or not. So it's the good news here is, without trying to split hairs just yet, this is all fun conversation, but that is going to get done.
Right.
And we can just be hopeful that it's going to be done in a way that we all can comprehend.
Yeah, the actuaries are going to love this because of the work that needs to be done just on this subject. But then I also think about the standards, right? The Division I standards will likely have to change, right? And they need to change anyway.
Yep. They're antiquated at this point.
Yeah, did you guys see Greg Lawless's? He wrote a piece. It's I can't remember the name of the outfit. It's like Mauricio's Corner, but not Mauricio. It's like Corner Flag or something. Anyway, he wrote a really good piece about the Premier League standards is 5,000. You only have to have 5,000, and Bournemouth is the smallest right now. It was Luton last year, but Bournemouth Stadium is smaller than Louisville. I mean these things are like we need to come back to reality, I think, on some of the size standards.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. There are some things that you can control a bit, like the size of your stadium. It takes some effort and investment and so forth. You cannot impact the size of your market. The size of your market is the size of your market. Yeah. So I also think that getting rid of that, and I know the reason it was initially put in there, it was so the big cities, so you could get a bigger TV deal and get more revenue. I get it. But let it rise or fall on its own merits in that way. Charleston should not be left out of the opportunity to go to the top tier just because Charleston, the city, isn't big enough. Yeah. If you're even if the expectation is 15,000 seats and they have built a 15,000 seat stadium, it doesn't matter how many people are there if you get 15,000, right? We'll see how that all plays out. We will talk more about this in the future, no doubt. I do want to remind everybody that season tickets are now on sale for the USL Super League. First Division Women's 2025-2026 season. Sporting Jacks will be kicking off in August. Season tickets start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 for general admission. Premium and field seating is also available. Those field seats, by the way, are going fast. Join the movement.
Hold on. Field seats and the club are going fast.
Club as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got an update yesterday, and it's pretty impressive.
Nice. All right. So join the movement by securing your 2025-2026 season tickets and receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. This exclusive offer won't last long. Act fast and be a part of history. Go to sportingjacks.com.
Her story.
Her story.
Yep.
Sportingjacks.com/tickets. We were at the Gator Bowl Career Fair on...
Yesterday. No, day before yesterday.
Wednesday. Yeah, we're recording this on Friday because of the holiday and everything. And I just want to say just one thing briefly here because we've spent a lot of time on promotion relegation. I know you guys were not able to be there. Mauricio was there with me last year, and number one, it was great to see some of the faces we saw last year come back and hear from them and hear we got some very interesting and insightful questions from some of these high school students. There are about 300 high school students. The Gator Bowl Charities put this on. It was held at Edward Waters University, and most of the other minor league teams in town were there. The Jaguars were not, but we were there, so you get a first division game there. 1010XL, First Coast News was there as well. PGA Tour was there. So to be able to answer questions about what it's like to become to be working in sports, and really, again, when you get down to the grassroots level, which this pretty much is with this, and talk to 16, 17, 18-year-olds and hear about what they want to do in their futures. It's really impressive, Tony.
It's inspiring,
And you taught in high school previously, so you know sort of what I'm talking. When you get those really bright young kids, it's makes you feel better about the future of the world.
Absolutely. I remember one time, I think it was a junior achievement, where you go and they do like a career fair, kind of same thing. And I remember talking to the kids. You'd have a little time before you went to the next station, and I remember talking to them and saying, what's your favorite team? Just in general sports team. And I was expecting to hear nothing but Jags, and it was like, Golden State and all these just crazy teams. And the one kid was like Grand Park. I'm like, that's amazing. That's his favorite sports team, which is great. I mean, the kids are the kids are all right. We're going to be in good shape.
Yeah. All right. And just wanted to mention that, and then we'll get on to the Champions League. By the way, more on that topic if you check out the Sporting Jacks report, which comes up noon on Saturday on NBC 12 before Premier League coverage. And you can join us every Tuesday at 6 on the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour on 1010XL on the AM side. You can listen live and on demand at 1010XL.com. All right, Champions League round of 16 is out, gentlemen. All of the Premier League teams are on one side of the bracket. You've got Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid in the first round. You've got PSG and Liverpool in the first round. I'll open it up for comments. Mal, we'll start with you. What really jumps out to you about the round of 16?
I mean, we would expect at this point you have this, the giant matchups. And I don't know exactly how it was done. Maybe you can shed some light into it. I'm not really much of like a researcher or historian.
Blind draw. They pulled it out of a hat.
Yeah, they picked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to get the Madrid derby and the German derby right there back to back, I mean, that's kind of unfortunate because you want to maybe see them later down the line. But for excitement's sake, it's nice to kind of see that early. I think Aston Villa kind of got pretty. I mean, like Club Brugge, like has been no slouch, but it's favorable. It's not like they're getting PSG. It's not like they're getting a Madrid team. So I think Aston Villa is looking pretty favorable right now to advance. And just those two big derbies is something that, I mean, they're always high intensity games, and it'd be interesting to see one of those two of those four teams come out so soon.
Yeah, I'm saying watch out for Bruges. They knocked out my pick, so I'm a little mad at them.
Yeah. And there's no doubt that was an upset for sure.
Yeah. They ended up killing them too.
It was a walkaway. I'm not going to say it's a complete surefire situation, but because you have Arsenal and Liverpool and Aston Villa all on the same side of the bracket, it would be a bit of an upset to not have an English team in the finals at this point, I think. You would be surprised just from the numbers standpoint. We'll see how that all plays out. This round of 16 is two-legged, so first leg March the 4th, second leg on March the 11th, at the higher seed. So we'll see how it all plays out. But these matchups, to see who is going to get a lot of the attention. Again, you have all the German teams on one side of the bracket. So how that plays out with Dortmund taking on Lille in the first stage. If I was a betting man, the odds would say it would be a German club against an English club, but because two of the German clubs will play one another in the first round, that may skew the numbers a little bit. Let's make our picks for who we think is going to wind up playing in the finals here at this point, gentlemen. Mauricio, I'll start with you. Who do you like in the finals right now?
Yeah, and you can have to help me out here again, but I got Barcelona going deep in this. They've been pretty impressive in league play and in Champions League play as well. Are they on the same side as Liverpool?
Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now.
That's the matchup that I would love to see, either in the semis or certainly in the finals. So if I can get Arsenal, Liverpool, Barcelona, and Real Madrid in the final four, that would I think that's safe money. So maybe I'm being a little bit cautious.
Yeah, I'm going with who I want, not who I think is going to win.
Okay,
I want to do PSG Barcelona.
Okay, so right now you've got on one side of the bracket PSG, Liverpool, Aston Villa, and Bruges, the Madrid teams, and then Arsenal and PSV on one side. If you want to take who has performed the best to this point, it's certainly Liverpool and would be the one on top. You would think Liverpool and Barcelona would be the favorites here just based on previous form in this competition.
They're 1 and 2, yeah.
But we'll see how it all plays out. I think you'd have to think that Inter got a pretty good draw with Feyenoord. First time that Feyenoord's ever been to the round of 16. So if they get through that, then they'll take on one of the German teams.
This version of it.
Yes.
Well, because Feyenoord, they've definitely won Europe before, I believe.
I think
whatever.
Not the champions of the Europa Cup or something.
Yeah, no. Like even before that, it was like the league winners cup or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm just throwing that out for Feyenoord. My Feyenoord homies. I'm looking out for you.
Well, look at this. You got 2 Dutch teams, and if you would have asked which one of the 2 out of all the Dutch teams who will be 2 in the stage, you would think Ajax would be in there,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you
don't have Ajax in there, and you got Feyenoord and PSV, and Ajax is struggling in the Europa League, and then you got 2 French teams, and it's pretty. And then you only have 1 Italian team. That says something about where the Italian league is right now, with Juventus, AC Milan getting knocked out, and only Inter getting through. Is the Dutch league the 3rd best league in the world? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
You're live from Portugal, buddy. Watch your back. Yeah.
But there's only 1 team here. There's only Benfica made it through.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see how that plays out again next week. Or the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to dig into
Wait,
that
I got one
more.
quick question.
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Yes, Mal, did you go to the pub for Roma Porto yesterday?
We didn't, just because it was running late and I was in between a couple of things. Yeah. But everybody out on the streets were watching, and then today we did go out to the store early, and it's a pretty significant, resounding that everybody watches, like every TV, every restaurant, every radio, every Uber driver is talking about it. And obviously, all upset because they lost.
I love that for you, except for the L.
Like in a city where they're just so passionate about it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Let's, at the risk of running super long on this one, let's get on to our Premier League look. What are you looking forward to the most this weekend? I'm looking forward to Sunday's Man City-Liverpool matchup. Question is, how far apart are these 2 teams? You've got the defending champs and the probable to-be champs. Liverpool leads 4th-place City by 17 points at this point of the season with 12 or 13 games remaining. Liverpool has a goal differential advantage of 19 on City, which kind of illustrates how they've been playing. And, of course, Liverpool won the earlier matchup this season in early December at Anfield. Lately, Liverpool's been, just okay. Had the 2-2 draw at Villa. Had a 2-2 draw against Everton, famously, in the final derby there at Goodison Park. Yeah, you may have read something about that. They have beaten Wolves and Bournemouth. And City, on the other hand, has a 5-1 loss to Arsenal recently and a 6-0 over Ipswich after a 2-2 draw at Brentford. So they've certainly been uneven. But I'm interested to see, this is the last best gasp for City to try to make their case. Not to win the league. They're not going to win the league. But to sort of establish and say, listen, we're still going to be a Champions League contender for next year.
Yeah. We're sorry, Etihad.
Yeah, right.
We'll do better.
What are you looking forward to?
Okay, I'm going. I'm always looking at the bottom of the table. Not always, but a lot of times. And I think this Ipswich Spurs match is it's a big one for Ange. I think
must win, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, man. But they all kind of seem that way, and he's still around. So I don't know, but if he can't beat Ipswich, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Mauricio, how about you?
I got my eyes on Bournemouth, only because Newcastle and Nottingham Forest are playing each other, and if there's a drop there at any point, and Chelsea's got Aston Villa, so the couple teams that are around Bournemouth have tough games, so they might draw points. And Bournemouth is playing Wolves. Even Wolves is on a good spell right now, but you would fancy Bournemouth in their position. We might be talking next week as Bournemouth in the top 4 in the Champions League, maybe even Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth in the top 4. How about that?
Yeah, that's not a phrase we thought we would use when the season began. All right, guys, good stuff. The USL move to add a first division club continues to be a huge talking point around the not only the soccer world, but the sports world in the United States and beyond. And we will be continuing to follow that as events warrant.
And just one last thing, I want to big shout out and root on the Mustangs from Mandarin. They play tomorrow in the state championship. Duval's never won one, which just boggles my mind. And then Ponte Vedra girls and Bartram girls.
St. Joseph Academy's in the Final Four as well. St. John's Country Day in the Final Four. Episcopal girls in the Final Four on PKs. Great job by Jay Bolt there.
Nice.
It's been a banner year for high school soccer in our area for sure. All right. Thank you so much to Tony Allegretti, to Mauricio Ruiz, and to you for listening. I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks for tuning in right here to The Sporting Pod.